All right, I want to take a look right now just to see what effect these geomagnetic storms coming from the big solar flares and all of that, what effect they are having on people, other than allowing people that normally would never see the northern lights to see the northern lights. So let's just see what we get. All right. So the root card is the strength card, and the main card here is the Wheel of Fortune. So the Wheel of Fortune is showing kind of the galactic clock, and I guess that makes sense here when it comes to the solar flares. It would be part of a larger cycle. Now, the strength card on the bottom is interesting. Now, the thing, as I'm just looking at the card, trying to figure out what it is that's really coming out here, what I get is the tongue of the fish. So the strength card is generally about applying your will to a specific task and then just sort of moving through it, right? It's like a show of your own strength to yourself. But what I'm really getting here is the tongue of the fish monster. So that might have something to do with communications, just as we're looking at the fact that it's a tongue. All right. So let's expand upon this Wheel of Fortune. Actually, I'm going to expand upon each of them. So I'm going to put kind of a modifier card on each one. Let's look more at the strength card. Okay, so that's not very good. And let's look at this Wheel of Fortune, and we get the moon. All right. So when it comes to communication, here it is connected to the Ten of Swords reversed, and the Ten of Swords is basically some sort of trauma. This would definitely show a breakdown of communication, and I guess that makes sense as it most likely affected, radio communications and GPS. I mean, it theoretically could have done all of that. I've actually not heard of any reported cases of that happening, but I'm sure it happened in some places. But here, with the fact that this Ten of Swords is reversed, it just seems like it's a little bit worse, right? So there's trauma, and it's probably the most extreme form of this that the tarot can show, in the fact that the Ten of Swords is reversed. But it looks like it is bad for communication. Now, over here with the Wheel of Fortune and the greater cycle, so here it lines up with the moon. And the moon is generally about some sort of manipulation. And I mean, obviously, the moon is subject to cycles of its own. So we would be looking at this sort of cyclical sort of thing. But we do have manipulation here. I'm going to see where this manipulation is coming from, unless it's just coming from the moon itself. Let's see, it's right on the bottom. Well, I think this is at least partially manipulation coming from the moon, just because the moon is like also shown full back here. But what the 10 is really showing is like some sort of a burden. Now, I personally did feel today, earlier today, I guess that would be Sunday, the 12th, kind of a weight. Like I was kind of tired all day. I mean, that can happen, right? But this just seems like kind of oppressive. like this sort of burdensome energy here, kind of manipulating people in some way. And then this would show making the communication more difficult, if not like straight up traumatic. All right. So I'm going to collect these and let's just see the brain, how the geomagnetic storm like affects the mind. So the reversed Eight of Pentacles, this is someone who is being very productive, right? And they're just cranking out the thing that they do all day. And here, when this thing is upside down, it's like lack of productivity. So it would show kind of maybe a lack of being able to think clearly or a lack of being able to be productive. And I guess this is consistent with how I felt on Sunday, right? Now, let's just see what it does emotionally to the people. And the Seven of Swords is basically showing pressure. So this would be like some sort of emotional pressure, or basically like feeling kind of pushed into, I guess, going through some sort of emotion, right? It's like almost like you're feeling pressured to be sad or to be happy or like whatever. Okay. Now, all right. Let's just see if there are long-term effects of this. Is this just like a bad day or whatever? And the Two of Wands is showing like planting, kind of like planting a seed. So what this would basically say is the energy of the last couple of days would kind of be like a seed that is planted. So the breakdowns in communication and this like emotional pressure, as well as the weight mentally, that this is something that is going to kind of get in there, right? So now I just want to see if there's anything we can do to release this energy, to like get it out of ourselves. And we get the reversed Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups basically shows emotional stagnation, right? And here the person really wants to be having a new experience. They want to be getting on the ship doing something fun, but they're not doing that. They're just sitting in their castle and sulking. Now, when this thing turns upside down, it's usually about actually getting out of the castle and doing something fun. So if it looks like if you do want to alleviate this energy, then probably breaking any sort of stagnant emotional cycles, getting out of wherever you're at and having a new experience is the way to go. And I guess that makes sense. Like any sort of new experience to kind of clear what has just happened, and hopefully before these seeds can kind of grow into big depressions. All right. Now, let's just see if we're about to step into a shitload of these, right? And if you're into the Northern Lights, that would be pretty awesome. I'm a little worried about, the effect that it's going to have on our brains and everything, but it sure is pretty. So let's just see if this is going to become a trend. And here we get that 7 reversed and a Knight of Wands also reversed. Okay, so as far as would this become a trend? Now, the Knight of Wands is this impulsive energy. And I think this is a fair way to show solar flares. This is an energy that kind of comes out of nowhere and it's just like bam, and then it's there. So the Knight of Wands reversed is when that impulsive energy is kind of pent up. And here with this seven, so there's all of this pressure, right, on this person to do something they're not necessarily ready to do. And I'm taking this as like a relief of the pressure. So these two would show obviously that that energy would still be around in the sun. I mean, it can do this pretty much at any time. But because both of these are reversed, I'm just thinking that it's probably not going to happen soon. So with this geomagnetic storm, it was apparently the biggest that we've had in about 20 years. And looking at this, I'm going to assume that it's going to be maybe a year or two at least before this happens again. But I don't think it's going to be happening, for the next several months or whatever. So I guess that is what we would get here. I would love to hear what anyone else has experienced with this storm. If anyone else has felt like I have, which is kind of this like heaviness and kind of a lethargic sort of energy. I've definitely been tired, and it has been hard to get motivated in any way over the last few days. So I would love to hear if that has not been your experience. You're like, oh man, I've been jazzed and I've got so much stuff going on or whatever. But I would love to hear that. That's what we have for now, and peace.